Kota to Kimchi, out of office edition, take 2. Yeboseyo, and welcome to Kota to Kimchi. I am your host, Kuku, and as you can see, today's setup is a little bit different. Only one chair in front of the camera. That's because our co-host, Londanim, is on a well-deserved break after a hectic 2024. While she's busy relaxing, I just thought, let me hop on here, give our Kota to Kimchi viewers a little bit of something called end of year wind down, where we're going to discuss a couple of our favorites. Don't worry, Londanim hopped on with a voice note before she, went to sip cocktails in the Maldives or something like that. I don't know, but we're only about 5 months into Kota to Kimchi and we've been having a blast. So we have discussed around about five K-dramas this year. Besides Queen of Tears, most of these were actually not released in 2024. There were 72 K-dramas released. Trust, we're not going to talk about all of them. No, not today. We will have a couple of our viewers share a little bit of what they enjoyed this year though. So to kick it off, Londanim is going to just take us through the list of dramas that she watched this year.
In the year 2024, I have watched a total of 33 K-dramas, and it's been a mixture of repeating ones I've watched before and new ones, and I'm going to list them in no particular order, starting with Atypical Family, then Queen of Tears, I watched The Good Bad Mother, Crash Landing on You, Perfect Marriage Revenge, Tale of the Nine-Tailed, Welcome to Waikiki, The Trunk, Love and Contract, Love Next Door, Extraordinary Attorney, Daily Dose of Sunshine, Eve, What's Wrong with Secretary Kim, Marry My Husband, so that makes it 34, so Marry My Husband, My Demon, The Matchmakers, Destined With You, See You in My 19th Life, She Would Never Know, Welcome to Sundari, Business Proposal, Shooting Stars, King the Land, Alchemy of Souls, 1 and 2, Suspicious Partner, Welcome to Waikiki 2, Something in the Rain, It's Okay to Not Be Okay, Dr. Slump, Mr. Queen, Love in the Moonlight, Strong Girl Namsu, Oh My Venus, and No Gain, No Love.
That is quite a list. Thank you, Londanim. And there are a couple that you mentioned here that I will get back to. As for me, the ones that I watched that came out in 2024 are Dr. Slum, Flex X Cop, Gyeongsong Creature, Marry My Husband, also watched that, Queen of Tears, of course, Red Swan, Atypical Family, Miss Night and Day, Blood Free, Queen of Divorce, Wedding Impossible, Crash, Trunk, Frankly Speaking, Romance in the House, What Comes After Love, Brewing Love. I am currently working on Love Your Enemy, When the Phone Rings. Mark my words, When the Phone Rings is going to be one of those that are eminently rewatchable. But more about that later. Love Next Door, Mr. Plankton, I started watching, but I have yet to finish. And there's another one on Disney Plus called Light Shop. So that's a nice even split between K-dramas on Netflix and some on Disney Plus. And like I keep telling y'all, please do not sleep. Oh, have I told y'all? I don't know. Anyways, I'm telling you now. Do not sleep on some of the K-dramas that are on Disney Plus. Of those that I've just mentioned, there's one called Crash. It's kind of like a fish out of water insurance investigator who has a traumatic event in his recent past, who then takes a police exam and joins a traffic crime investigation team. Love the squad dynamics. Love the comedy. It's got Yimingi, who is, I feel, a master of the straight face, and I always enjoy stuff that he's in. So Crash, I enjoyed it. Not a romance, more buddy cop situation. Another buddy cop one that I watched this year that I really I cannot sing its praises enough is Flex X Cop. So Flex X, let me pause. Flex X Cop stars An Bo Hyun. Oh, such a cutie pie. Such a cute. Anyways, so An Bo Hyun plays this chaebol, third generation chaebol, yes, who on the surface, not even on the surface, he really does live this life of leisure where he has no responsibilities and spends most of his time playing with his toys, real life toys, like his boat, his very fancy cars, and also playing elaborate games of cops and robbers where they stage crime scenes or hostage situations and team versus team. Anyways, that's what he spends his life doing. But then he accidentally helps the cops, the real cops, apprehend a criminal. And in the resulting media frenzy, it's decided, because his father is now standing for, I think he was standing for mayor of Seoul at that time. And Jinhee Soo, that's An Bo Hyun's character, has been nothing but a PR thorn in the side of his family. So it's decided, no, he must do something productive with his life. He's helped the police. Why does he not join the police force? Of course, everyone thinks it's just, as a PR exercise so that he can get a few brownie points and stay on the right side of scandal for his father's sake. He is a qualified lawyer, never practiced, because who needs to practice when you got money? And our boy is loaded. But ends up enjoying the work of being a detective, and bit by bit his team that he has been thrust upon learns to trust him. He's got very innovative and financially savvy ways of dealing. Well, they're not savvy, but he deals with problems as only a chaebol can. Anyways, but he is actually the illegitimate son of this chaebol family, and so that's kind of why he kind of fell through the cracks, because he's got his older brother, born by a different mother, same father, who is the one who is the responsible one, who's expected to take over the family business. And there's Jinhee Soo, who has been told since the day he entered his father's house after his mom passed away that he is surplus. He's a spare, basically. Come to find, there is some mystery around how his mom and him passed away. And it may involve his chaebol father. And it may involve a cover-up. And it may involve his current team captain, or the detective, his team captain's father, who was a detective at the time that his mother's body was found drowned in the bathtub at home. Also, Jinhee Soo doesn't actually remember much about how his mom passed away. He was always told she passed away, I think, in a car accident. And he's bit by bit starting to remember things that the adults around him had kept away from him. Flex X Cop. Worth the watch. Disney Plus, please. Okay, moving on. Dr. Slum, got something to say about that later. Gyeongsong Creature with our guys, Park Seo-joon. If you are a history buff, please consider watching Gyeongsong Creature. It is on the thriller side of things, but it has so much history. But I think we mentioned that during our Park Seo-joon bonanza, so I will say less and I will move on. Atypical Family was kind of an atypical K-drama in that we are introduced to a family we're told from the get-go that they're a family with special abilities. Dare we say superpowers. So the matriarch of the family has the ability to see the future in her dreams, particularly the future of financial decisions. And so she's been able to amass a whole bunch of wealth by sleeping, dreaming, lottery numbers, successful stocks, all those kinds of things. That is her ability. Her daughter, her ability is to fly. The son, his ability is to go back into a moment in the past that made him happy. And then his son has a daughter who apparently has no superpowers. The family has lost all of those abilities. So the matriarch suffers from insomnia. So bit by bit, she has not been able to amass wealth in that way. And so the family's finances are getting into dire straits. The son, the happiest moment in his life was the day his daughter was born. But on that day, he was a firefighter. On that day, there was a massive fire at a nearby school. And his very close mentor passed away during that rescue of the high school students. And so the moment of his child's birth is also connected with this huge tragedy. And so he keeps on revisiting this past in order to try and change the outcome, but he cannot change the outcome. And so he falls into a depression. If his ability was to go back to a time that made him happy, he's got depression. He no longer experiences happiness, according to him. And so he's now no longer able to travel into the past. His sister is in a dysfunctional relationship where she's basically bankrolling a gold digger. The dude is a gold digger. He's a doctor, but he's a gold digger, and she's been bankrolling the clinic and everything. He has a wandering eye because they'll say because there's no such because. She now no longer can fly. She has lost that ability, and they allude to the fact of it being because she is now tipping the scale on the other side. Anyways, and then of course the daughter apparently has no abilities. The one person who seems to make a difference to this family, who helps the matriarch with her insomnia, who I can't remember what she did for the sister. Okay, suddenly can go back to a moment in time where she's present. So is she his happiness or? Anyway, Ukel is actually a swindler, and she's been adopted into this family of swindlers. And so that's how they make their living, is they target rich families and will swindle them of their money, or she will marry a member of that family, then divorce, and then get a divorce settlement. That's their game. She's been trying to get out of this swindle scam thing, but this family is now her last mark, except real feelings start to develop. A couple of people I've spoken with differ with me on this assessment, but Atypical Family was a strange K-drama for me. It was supposed to be about a romance between, of course, the swindler lady, and the son of the superpowered family. But it always felt sinister because, like, that all these characters are basically almost manipulating situations. So if you enjoy that kind of psychological teasing, I suppose it might be for you. For me, I'm gonna go where the happiness resides. Thank you very much. Anyways, moving on. Another one that is, again, a Disney Plus one is Blood Free. I enjoyed Blood Free. I don't know what that says about me, but I really enjoyed Blood Free. Blood Free takes place in the near future. Dare we say, even as close as tomorrow. And it is about the CEO of a company that has discovered a way of creating protein. So they make meat in a lab. But that's not the only protein that they've figured out how to make, if you catch my drift. Now, we meet the CEO at a point where the entire agricultural industry is really upset with her. I say upset, but that's a very loose term. There are massive protests by farmers, cattle farmers, because by creating animal-free meat, she has basically undermined the entire agricultural industry. And so their livelihood is at stake. So she's been getting death threats. She's been getting protests. Very scary incident happens where a farmer who was part of the protest jumps off a building onto her vehicle that she's traveling in. And so after this situation, then she decides she needs a bodyguard. Mobilizes her team to find a bodyguard. Enter! Well, his real name is Ju-Ji-hoon. Oh, looking fine as can be. Ju-Ji-hoon is a former Navy official or Navy officer. His backstory is that there was a time when the president of the country, so South Korea, the country South Korea, had come to a naval base in some foreign land where the Korean Navy was stationed, and had come with a delegation of some business people. But there was a terror attack where the entire base was blown up. He lost his compatriots. He lost some of his friends who were in his battalion. I hope they call it a battalion. I'm not sure. People died. He wants to know why. Who knew that the president was coming to this base? He has been low-key targeting the business people who were with the president that day. Oh, the president himself suffered a severe injury and both of his legs had to be amputated. Remember the president. President also has a grandson. Remember the grandson. Anyways, so he starts infiltrating the security details of the business people who had been traveling with the president, because in his mind, that course and that decision to come to the base was a last minute one. So only those who had been on the plane with the president could have known that they were actually going to stop by that base. And so the former president, the one who is now injured and is retired, forcibly retired because of disability, he gets wind that Ju-Ji-hoon has been infiltrating the business people's security details one by one, finding them non-culpable, and then moving on to the next target. So then he enlists his help and he says, okay, well, come work for me. I will help you achieve your goals. Next goal, of course, is the president, this lady president of Blood Free, that meatless meat company. And so then he, of course, goes through the interview process, which includes a physical test of fighting skills. Love the fight choreography. And he passes, but he was also always going to pass because the former president was also helping him, maneuver and everything. And then he joins Blood Free as well. The chemistry between the main leads was fantastic. It was fantastic. It was not a classic romance again. So brothers, you can watch it without feeling that you're going to be like cringe and everything. It definitely wasn't that. It's got plenty of fight scenes, fire. And it definitely is not blood free. I don't care what the title says, that is not blood-free. And so bit by bit, he's starting to figure out that no, this conspiracy is a little bit bigger than what he thought. Yes, this CEO of Blood Free may have been the reason why the base was blown up, because she stumbled upon something that is potentially lucrative, potentially dangerous as well. Remember I said that it was meat for consumption, human consumption, and other proteins, including human organs, which means that the potential for the very rich to be able to access organs on demand is now available, potentially. And they want their hands on this technology. The rich people want their hands on this technology, but the government also wants their hands on this technology. And one person that you can't really figure out on which side is he? Is it for personal gain, or is it for the government's sake? Does he want to regulate it from the government's point of view, or does he want to exploit it because he's dealing with a chronic illness? Is that president's grandson? And so the plot thickens, and boy does it thicken. Blood Free, highly recommended. I'm going to pause there. Otherwise it's going to be a very, very long roundup. And we have a caller who has something to add to this discussion of good K-dramas this year. So I will hand it over to a viewer called Stay Rem, who wanted to remain anonymous, but very kindly gave us a very nice breakdown.
Hello, K-drama people. 2024 is a year. So I'm not the type of person to like watch new shows as soon as they release. I like waiting for episodes so that I can like binge watch afterwards. Also, I don't like watching the hyped up shows immediately because there's always spoilers and there's always opinions that I don't really want to know. With 2024, I didn't watch a lot. First one, favorite, Dr. Slum. Definitely one of my favorites. Second, Queen of Tears. Definitely a crier. Atypical Family was in there. Hated the ending. Captivating the King. It wasn't bad. Main male lead just made the show. As usual. Season 1 to season 3. Did not like the ending. And yeah, I think that was it. No, Anakin Paradox. Oh, very, very difficult to watch. But yeah, so favorite, Dr. Slump. I think it was one of the most relatable shows. As a medical worker, no one really understands how much time and effort goes into what you do. Well, I mean, they do notice it, but they don't know the like behind of it. You're constantly exhausted, you're constantly frustrated, you're constantly like thinking about what's going to happen next. How do you plan your day out? What's going on with your patients? Things like that. I mean, you have someone's life in your hands, and it doesn't matter if you're like a doctor or a nurse or even like an allied staff, you still get affected the same way. It's mentally draining, and the shifts are exhausting. So Dr. Slump was one of the most relatable ones. I mean, we have our anesthetic doctor and we have our plastic surgeon, but that's the thing with this show. It wasn't hyped up a lot. I don't think people appreciated it as much. Park Shin-ye and Park Kyun-sik, both two of my favorite actors and actresses, really made the show for me. I love their chemistry. Some people didn't think that the show was it, but it's a show that you really need to understand, and you can't just be in it for the romance. It's a show that makes you think a lot about the social status and mental well-being of people in like real life, and that's what I appreciated, is that they made it so real, like the emotions, every scene had something that I could relate to, which was amazing. And I also like how they didn't stigmatize the depression and PTSD, because in the world today, it's so, how do I say it? It's common, and people don't accept it easily, especially like the older generations. They don't understand why we get depressed, but depression is something that's real. I loved the side characters also, how they kept like supporting Park Shin-ye, and how he had his friend who stood by him till the end. It also shows us the importance, or like how pressurizing education is in like South Korea, but it's not only in South Korea, but they a bit more extreme than us. These kids literally starve themselves just so that they become top of the class, and then they work, study, work, and you hit burnout, and people don't understand how crazy burnout is. And you're putting your life and your health at risk. There's always going to be a villain. Hated him. The accident scene, spoiler, was not necessary, but it's fine that he died. So yeah, Dr. Slum, really one of my favorite shows. Very comedic also. I mean, Park Hyun-sik's in it. It's obviously going to have a lot of humor, but I love how they didn't like dismiss the emotions and how important mental well-being is and mental health is, especially when they introduced her going to a psychiatrist and stuff. So yeah, definitely would recommend Dr. Slump, but only if you're someone who doesn't want to just be in the show for romance. Obviously the romance is cute, but it needs to be like you wanting to like relate to them, or you want to like understand your emotions a bit better. Atypical Family, did not really like the ending, wasn't so bad. I don't think I'd recommend it, because it's kind of like people get confused, especially like with the timelines and stuff. It's funny, definitely funny, but also hectic, because of like the emotions and stuff going through when they lose their superpowers, and him constantly being stuck in the past. Queen of Tears was definitely a crier. Not everyone liked it. Everyone just said it was because the cast was so good. I actually did like it. I felt for the villain, but I mean, he needed to die. There was trauma, but you can't always use your trauma to get what you want in life and stuff. But yeah, Queen of Tears, I'd recommend if you want to like cry. It's also quite funny. Killer Paradox, so confusing, so confusing. You need to really have the capacity to understand what's going on. But Toyoshik, his acting is phenomenal. He really played the role so well. He really comes across as a killer. Season 3 of Sweet Home, like I said, didn't really like it. The ending was not what I expected. So many open ends, not a lot of closure. Yeah, Captivating the King, I think, ended fine. Like I said, main lead just made it for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have watched it. But yeah, that's basically my 2024. Haven't really watched much, like I said. But yeah, awesome. Thank you.
And thank you, Stay Rem. I think now is the time to talk about Dr. Slump. And I really liked what Stay Rem spoke about and how she broke down what she really liked about it. Dr. Slump is a drama about these two characters, one played by Park Hyung-sik and the other one played by Park Shin-hye. They used to be in high school together, and they had this massively competitive thing going on between them about, you know, who's top of the class. He was a more laid back, on the outside kind of person, but he was an academic achiever until she joined the school, and she was obsessed about studying every spare moment she would study. She timed everything. She would revise while she's busy running from school to the cram academy, back to home after 10 p.m. Anyways, both of them became doctors. But they really had this. He was really bothered by her. She barely noticed him, or it seemed. Then they both went on to become doctors. She became an anesthesiologist. He became a plastic surgeon, a rather successful plastic surgeon, who also had a YouTube channel. He was really, really, really famous. Massive following, really successful clinic. Then they met again later on, but there has been a few things that have happened to them. She has hit a brick wall, like suddenly cannot continue at work. And this is after years and years and years of just going for it, being a top achiever, never resting. And then suddenly she just cannot anymore. Part of that is she has been working, and part of the hierarchy is that as a junior, she's been helping one of her seniors to write his theses, but he's been taking all the credit. And when she wants recognition and she wants authorship, then she is basically, I think now would be an appropriate time to use the word gaslit about her contributions, and passed over for promotion. And in that realization of the futility of it all, she completely breaks. May have smacked one of her professors upside the head while resigning from work. You know, that might have happened. But it's quite a sudden and drastic screeching halt to which she comes in her career. And she is diagnosed with burnout. He suddenly, at his practice, this massive medical accident happens where a surgery seems to be going routinely, but then all of a sudden the patient starts to bleed and starts to bleed and starts to bleed, and the bleeding cannot be stopped, and the patient passes away on table. That is a horror for anyone in the medical profession. And so that's part of why it just was like, oh. And when they bring the realism, like, you know, his panic and everything when that happened. And then to be taken up on criminal charges and to be taken to court with his medical license in question and him being held culpable, where he goes through everything again, and nothing that he did was out of the norm. His screening of the patient, he knew exactly what the patient's medication was. Nothing seems to make sense. Why would this patient bleed? Why would we get into a situation where she bleeds and she passes away? Anyway, it's all very sinister, and it's actually, tiny spoiler, it was a situation where she was the heir of a big casino gambling thing in Macau, and she'd come to South Korea in order to have plastic surgery. And so someone took that opportunity to maybe it was all a setup, basically. It was all a setup. But before we find out that it's a setup, we know it's a setup because he's a meticulous guy and he's a very conscientious person, a good physician. He goes into a deep, dark depressions. And so they meet each other where he's now lost everything and he's had to move to the rooftop of a building. But it's the building above the house of Park Shin-hye's character, the anesthesiologist, and her family, who live above the restaurant that they run on the ground floor. So now they're thrown together. They're basically landlord and tenant. And they have this history of just being enemies, but now they become friends because they're both facing a crisis in their medical profession. And I like what Stay Rem said about how it gave an insight into, you know, the relentless work of healthcare professionals and all the work that goes into all the stress and burden that healthcare professionals will carry. It puts healthcare workers at risk for for depression and for burnout. And so this was a good way, I feel, a good way of addressing that fictional situation. Where is it? And then how they navigated, how the characters actually are not afraid to name their challenge and to seek help for their challenge as well. Of course, the dramatization around especially Park Hyung-sik's character and the legal battle he goes through, who we find out is responsible for it all. And I would be giving a huge spoiler there, so I'm going to stop there. But just that story is brilliant. But because it's in a medical setting, some of us struggle to then relax and enjoy the drama as it is. And so I was on tenterhooks as well, because I was like, oh my goodness. This is horrifying. This is truly horrifying. Yeah. From a romance point of view, Bagit, bacon is romance, bacon. So another drama I would really love to recommend if you are in a high pressure job. It's called Daily Dose of Sunshine. Daily Dose of Sunshine. It's got Park Bo-young, who played strong girl Do Bong-soon. She plays a nurse in a psychiatric ward. The series follows all the healthcare workers who work in that psychiatric ward. And so we get some vignettes, stories of the patients who end up being admitted to that to that ward, but also the challenges of those who work in the psychiatric ward. So it's 12 episodes. It's got a little bit of romance, but a thing I enjoyed about that one, not just me, a lot of people, because it actually was Emmy nominated. American TV Daytime Emmy nominated for comedy, which I didn't really understand, but I really didn't understand. It didn't win, and also it was really, really, really the wrong category. But it was that good. The cinematography was good. Some mental health professionals have said that some of the cinematography around displaying or depicting mental health challenges were not exactly accurate. What I liked is how we got a very close look with our main character when she then went through her own personal challenges. We were right there with her. Oh, the cinematography there and how all the color was dimmed when we realized, we also realized with her that, wait, something is not right. Something is not quite right. I enjoyed that storytelling, and it's a 12 episode one. So if 16 episodes is a little bit too much, Daily Dose of Sunshine, I would really highly recommend as well. I did not watch Killer Paradox. It does have one of my favorite actors, Son So-koo, who's my age range bucket. Oh, but fine boy. Anyways, so he's in there. Yeah, it looks dark. I ain't gonna lie, it looks really dark, so I might not. But tell me in the comments what you thought of Killer Paradox if you did watch it. And I think that pretty much brings us to the end of 2024. Obviously, I was never going to talk about all 72 that came out. Also because a lot of these just weren't accessible to a lot of us. So we can only imagine what they were like. In summary, got a glowing recommendation of Dr. Slum from Stayrem. We have my personal recommendation along with that of Daily Dose of Sunshine. Look, mark my words, when the phone rings, it's gonna be the one. It's gonna be the one. After episode one, I was like, oh, I am in, because the plot twist by the end of episode one was brilliant. I've heard good things about Mr. Plankton and how the story is told over a 10 episode arc. We kind of know the end from the beginning, but I'm only up to episode 4, so I will see. I will watch the rest of it, but very, very good things that I've heard about Mr. Plankton, and I think that's one of the ones, the standouts for this year. Another really hyped one for this year was Love Next Door. And I have opinions about Love Next Door. Great cast. The elements never quite came together for me. It is a story of a boy and a girl who are next door neighbors. Their mothers are friends. He's had a crush on her since forever. We know this from the first episode, basically. She studied, went to America, got engaged, even sent wedding invitations home. Then suddenly she pitches up back in Seoul. She is now broken up with her fiance, and she quit her job. And she's now back at home, but she hasn't told her mother. And that moment in episode 1 where her mom figures out that she's now back in Korea was so weird, because it was kind of supposed to be comedic because her mom was basically hitting her for being back home. I didn't understand that. But the timing and the score at that time felt very dramatic and very somber. And yet later, there was a moment where one character is confessing to another character, and they have all these comedic stings during the thing, but it was a very earnest kind of confession. And by that point, I mean, I watched all 16 episodes, but I was like, what are we doing here? Why is the soundtrack not matching what's happening on screen? Which one do you want? Do you want drama or do you want comedy? Also, this mother and her friends, it could be a drama just about them. And then there were storylines that just were like hanging participles. They just never went anywhere. I personally found romance done better in other K-dramas released this year. But also, there weren't many that gave us all of the romantic feels this year. But maybe 2025 is going to be a more interesting year. There's one called Where the Stars Gossip, Lee Min-ho, which marks the return of Lee Min-ho. I really feel that it's kind of like a Mad Libs situation. So what they've said is it's an OBGYN turned space tourist who goes onto a shuttle that is blasted off into outer space. And that's where this rom-com takes place. They threw ideas into a hat and basically like pick a profession. Okay, OBGYN. Pick a setting, space. Okay, what genre? Rom-com. We'll see how they put it together. I've been surprised before. And this might be one of those quirky ones that we actually end up enjoying and it's very iconic. But that tagline is giving me pause. It is giving me pause. But anyway, that's where I have to end it. Be safe out here in these streets. Drive to arrive alive. And see you in 2025. Again, thank you for being a part of the Kota to Kimchi community. And we hope to see you on the other side of the new year with more K-drama reviews, more K-drama recommendations, and a lot more of that South African razzle dazzle. So until next time, annyeong.